Good evening, everybody, and welcome. To those of you who are watching this on replay, welcome. I want to give some cautionary notes, okay? Please be respectful, and let's not argue this evening. I'm going to give you some things that may bust a couple bubbles. I'm not doing it out of disrespect to the way you believe. There are people out there who are putting things out in the ether world that are causing unnecessary stress, concern, angst, anxiety on people. And I just want to try to quench some of that, give you some factual information, not to argue with anybody, not to belittle anybody or anything else. I just don't want you to get caught up in worrying about things that are outside of your control. Now, when we talk about there are two areas. There's a circle of influence in a circle of interest. Sure, you can have an interest in stuff, but when you let that interest overpower your circle of authority or the circle of influence, then you end up having high blood pressure. And I don't want that to happen. I would rather that you understand some of the things that are going on, that you understand some reality and some misinterpretations and some realistic interpretations, and let that be a way to kind of calm you a little bit, quelch your fears, and give you a little bit more vigor to pursue and move on. Gosh, tonight, well, my next live is going to be Tuesday night. So next time you see me after Tuesday night, I'll be a full year older. I'll be aging in between Tuesday and the next following Monday, except for the Saturday haul. I guess you'll see me then, but you won't see me, but you'll see the haul. Trying to get the stuff out as far as some of the prepper tips, and I'll get those out as much as I can. So we'll continue on with that. Let me see here. I saw hello Tofu. Gosh, it's been so long since I've seen you. I'm about ready to lose half of my notes here. And let me move that over here so I don't knock it off, because I'm trying to get to my lousy mouse. Hello, Tofu. Diana, too. Good evening. Welcome. Utah Mike. Hello. Little Lone Prepper. And Mother Earth Garden Club. Good evening. Good to see you. Jack, Hill Summit Homestead. Great to see you, too, my friend. Okay, so I'm going to share something with you, and I've got my personal information kind of blocked off. This is called the DD-214. You get one every time you leave active duty. So what I want to point out on this one is basically right here, and it's got my primary MOS. So I exited the Army from the 502nd ASA Battalion, Detachment Wilbeck, 66th MI Brigade. 66th MI Brigade was headquartered in Munich. I was up on the east-west German border at an intercept site called Detachment Wilbeck. What I want to point out here is it basically gives you, this is my job title right here, if I can get that up without too much reflection. But I was a 98 Golf 4 Hotel, Romeo Uniform, Charlie 8. So let's break that down. 98 Golf. 98 was Special Intelligence series of MOSs. 98 Golf is a voice intercept operator. 4 is my skill level. There's only 5 skill levels, and so a 4 is a sergeant first class going into a master sergeant. And hotel means that I was instructor qualified. Romeo Uniform means that I was Russian language qualified. And then Charlie 8 means that there was a very specific electronic warfare configuration that I was trained to use. And so I want to kind of give you a little bit of an idea on what that is. So let me see here, video, share screen. And share screen. And let me see if I can find it here. There we go. So here is a definition of a 98 Golf. Basically, and I'm going to go to the page here so I can read it instead of, so it performs detection, identification, and exploitation of foreign communications, performs duties shown in preceding skill level, determines requirements for supported units, supervises collection management, supervises subordinates in SIGINT operations, that's signals intelligence operations, and command intelligence procedures, coordinates tactical and strategic signals intelligence voice collection operations, and provides appraisals of intelligence products, activities, and operations, develops intelligence training strategy. Now, one of the nice things about this DD214 is it also tells you, I'm going to get rid of that one, so I can get rid of some of these tabs as we go along. So the reason, and this one, what it does, the area I'm covering up is it shows all your combat time, and you don't need to know that, and overseas time, and unaccompanied service time, and reserve time, and all that kinds of stuff. But what's important here is that I was discharged from Bremerhaven, Germany. So on this one, I was brought on to active duty in Bremerhaven, Germany. And down here it says the reason I was discharged, on this one it says the reason I was discharged was to accept an appointment as an officer. So here, this is my discharge as an officer. So this one I was, and I want to show you the MOS up here. So this one is a 352 Charlie, Signals Intelligence Traffic Analysis Technician. Okay, so what is that? And we'll go here. If I can find 352 Charlie, there we go. Got that all set up. So 352 Charlie, process, locate, identify, and analyze signals intelligence electronic warfare intercept. Manages personnel and equipment to collect, perform reporting per SIGINT EW directives, to produce combat intelligence and information, establish priorities of intercept missions for acquisition of desired traffic, prioritize intercept missions for acquisition of desired traffic, coordinate signals intelligence, electronic warfare, and analytical projects, advise and assist commanders and staff officers in formulating plans for signals intelligence, electronic warfare activities. So basically, I planned signals intelligence, electronic warfare operations. Then as things happened, that information came to me. I wrote reports and then sent those on to major commanders. I even had access to the White House while I was there. Hello, Kay Lynn, welcome. And who else do we have up here? Phioxerus, welcome. And gosh, okay, come on, mouse, don't do anything to me now. I thought I saw Gil. Muskoka Oma, welcome. Mother Earth Garden Club, welcome. So I just wanted to do that because I got into a conversation with a guy on another channel, actually a channel I really, really like. It's called Neat Intel, N-E-E-T Intel. And he wanted to know by what authority I could tell him that we can't jam GPS, okay? So there's a couple reasons why we can't do that. So the first reason is we don't have enough jamming equipment in the Army. In the Army, we're down to only 4 jammers per division. So we have 2 ANTLQ-17 Team Pack, I believe is what it's called. Team Mate is the intercept, Turkey 32, and then Team Pack is the jammer. Yeah, Turkey 17. And so we only have 2 or 3 of those per division. Now, if you take that Turkey 17, take it out of the vehicle and put it in a helicopter, the old helicopter was the EH-1 Quick Fix, and that was the EH-1, which is basically a UH-1. EH means electronic warfare helicopter. And you take that and put it into an M60 Blackhawk, UH-60 Blackhawk, then it becomes an EH-60 Blackhawk. So, we have somewhere between 4 and 6 jammers per division. That means, now here's the key. When you jam, you don't jam the transmitter, you're jamming the receiver, okay? So I have a signal here, that's the bad guy. He's talking to this guy here. So that signal loses power as it goes over time. My job over here is to overpower his signal at the point where this person is listening, okay? Now, if this person's back here and he's transmitting here and I'm over here, I have to use a lot more power than he has to get back behind. And that means that I'm going to probably have a life expectancy of somewhere around 5 seconds. But if he's up closer and the other signal is behind him, then I can overpower him without that other signal necessarily direction finding me and taking me out. So if you take a look at the number of GPS transmitters there are, I have to jam all those receivers on the ground. Well, my jammer if I get that helicopter up to, let's say, 5,000 feet, 5,000, 10,000 feet, I may have a radius I can jam effectively of 25 miles. And so in order to cover the state of Kansas, I'm going to need a whole bunch of those helicopters. I'm going to need a whole bunch of those ground jammers. Now, those ground jammers aren't going to be as effective because your signal gets absorbed by buildings, hills, trees. There's all kinds of things that obstruct your jamming capability. And so I'm not going to be as effective. So there is the comment that was made was that the Army or the military is going to jam all of GPS and mess people up. And my response was, we can't even jam the state of Kansas, all the GPS. Now, that's theoretical, okay? Because I just gave you that we probably have somewhere around 28, maybe EH-60s. We probably have somewhere around 28 Toki 17s on active service in the U.S. Army. That's not enough to even cover the state of Kansas. But there's another problem. The Toki 17 jams between 20 megahertz and up to, and I'm not going to tell you the top end. I'm going to just say in the VHF spectrum, okay? So we can do high HF, VHF jamming. Unfortunately, the GPS signals are at 1.52 gigahertz, okay? So that's not in the VHF range. That's way up there. We don't have the frequency capability to jam those. So can the Army jam GPS? No. Can the Air Force? Possibly. I don't know what Compass Call is capable of. I've never targeted anything in that spectrum. I know that Compass Call is primarily voice, and then they have a couple other birds that do primarily radars. So I don't know where those radar frequencies are. So I'll be honest with you. I don't know if the Air Force could from another platform, but I do know that Compass Call is primarily voice communication. So that's going to be VHF, UHF are not going to get up into the gigahertz, okay? So that's it. We don't have enough equipment, and the equipment that we do have is not in the right frequency range. So the U.S. military is not going to jam GPS. However, here's the stickler. However, all of the GPS satellites are owned by the military. There's two channels. One channel is the military channel. One channel is the civilian channel. And in between the two, there's this little thing called an ON-OFF switch. So ON, it's on. OFF, it is off. So you don't have to jam it. You just turn that little ON-OFF switch, and all of a sudden, there is no GPS radar transmissions to the Earth. So that's how you were going to jam it if we're going to do it. So I sound like one of the commanding officers giving a lesson during signalman's course. Well, hopefully I'm making it so it's understandable. I don't want to talk down to people, but at the same time, I don't want to talk above people. I want to make it where it makes sense and you can kind of understand where I'm coming from, okay? So Phioxera says that I had Phioxera, I thought. In practice, though, we are seeing widespread GPS jamming in Eastern Europe these days. Things have changed. All I said was U.S., okay? That's one of the things you're going to find out is I only comment on things of which I am aware and I know. I don't know anything about our allies. I don't know anything about what's going on in Europe. All I can tell you is U.S. Army capabilities. So I'll take your word at that, Phioxerus. I am not up to date on that, and I don't get involved with our allies. Okay, so Michelle, welcome. Good to see you. Michelle and I chatted yesterday, and she is going to be coming on the last Monday of this month, and we're going to be talking about, the topic will be preparing your body for SHTF. So how you can build up some of your autoimmune functions and strengthen yourself and get ready for that. So looking forward to that. So put her on your calendar, the last Monday of this month. Hello, Jim, East Tennessee Preparedness. Good to see you, my friend. Jim just announced today he put out a video. He's not going to be he's not going to be putting out videos on YouTube. However, he is going to be on Rumble, and he will be monitoring our stuff. So that's where he is. Teresa Buchanan, welcome. Good to see you, my friend. Okay, Jim, take care. So the next one I wanted to show you there was another comment that I saw people getting really concerned because they saw movement of vehicles on trains going to and from, and this is summer, and every summer all of our maneuver units go to the National Training Center and do their maneuver training. There was a comment about the colors that they were painted. There was a comment about there were too many of them on a train. It had to be a deployment. Well, it is a deployment, and the basic maneuver unit in the U.S. Army is everybody except for cavalry. It's called a battalion. In the cavalry, it's called a squadron. Right? Just historical things. But a squadron and a battalion are the same thing. Okay, so the basic maneuver unit in the Army is a battalion. You're going to see battalion-sized units moving in and out. Now, has been a basic reorganization since I retired. The old armored division used to have a headquarters company, Alpha Bravo Charlie companies, and each one of those in a tank battalion had 17 tanks. So you had a total of 51 tanks plus a commander and XO, 53 tanks in a tank battalion. That has been severely reduced. Now we have a headquarters company, Alpha Bravo, and sometimes a Charlie company, but that's actually a mixed unit. You have one company of tanks, M1 Abrams tanks, 14 tanks in that company. Then you have 14 Bradleys in the infantry company. Okay, so the battalion's been reduced in size quite a bit from when I was on active duty. Sumi, you're reading my mind. We're going to get there in just a minute. That's coming right after this explanation I'm going to show now. Thank you but you're not allowed to do that. Even my wife is not allowed to read my mind. So please be cautious. Okay, so I want to show you something here. So I want to show you is when you see a military vehicle, look right here and here, because, and let me go to the actual picture so I can see it, because right here you have a symbol. It says 1, then it has a triangle, 4-17INF. And then over here it says B62. So basically what you have is it's saying here that this symbol, 1, and then the triangle is 1st Armored Division. And then this here is 4th Battalion, 17th Infantry Regiment. So that's just a historical designation. So this is 1st Armored Division. And in that 1st Armored Division, you've got 4th and 17th Infantry Battalion. And over here, it's in B Company, Vehicle 63. Now, typically with maneuver vehicles, and this is a Stryker. So when you have maneuver vehicles, typically the 60 series are going to be your command staff. Okay. And so that's typically your company commander is going to be a 66. Your XO will be a 65. First sergeant's a 64. I have no idea what a 63 is, but things may have changed since I retired too. So what I would like for you to do is take a look at the bumper stickers, and you can pretty much tell what that unit is. That will also give you an idea whether it's active duty or reserve or National Guard. So if you can get a hold of those bumper stickers when you see a lot of these things happening, that's going to help a lot. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Sumi. I'm really not following that. I put in what I thought I was going to talk about, but not in necessarily an order. I'm trying to get a little bit more logical and progress down a path. Kind of makes sense to me, but of course I may be confusing other people. So I apologize for that. Okay. So that's those two things. Okay. The next one is, I know that a lot of you watch Monkey Works. Great guy, strongly recommend him. Other people admire what he does with his aviation airplanes and everything happening around the world. And so he will show flight tracker radar of where all the different airplanes that have their transponders turned on, where they are and what they're doing. Okay. Now, people really, so now some other people are saying, oh, I need to get into this. And so they start doing flight tracker, and they'll say, oh my gosh, it's terrible. There are a whole bunch of helicopters. Let me get rid of this one. Over Dothan, Alabama, Dalesville, Alabama, Dothan, Alabama, Enterprise, Alabama. Oh gosh, there's a whole bunch of helicopters. Something serious is going on. So what I want to show you here is, let me share this with you. What I want you to do is, if you go to Flight Tracker Radar and you see a whole bunch of helicopters or a whole bunch of airplanes flying over a place, find out where that place is, okay? So here we are over the area, over here, off to the right, you see the red lines and everything. That's Dothan. Off to the left over here is Enterprise, Alabama. In between the two, there's what we call Daleville. And just north of Daleville is a little place called Fort Novosel. Now, Fort Novosel used to be called Fort Rucker, okay? So once you find out that you are viewing Fort Novosel or Fort Rucker, then what you need to do is to do a search on what is it that happens at Fort Novosel or Fort Rucker. So now we're going to do a web search. What is Fort Novosel? Well, lo and behold, Fort Novosel, ex-Fort Rucker, is the U.S. Army Aviation Center of Excellence. And so this is where they do all of the helicopter pilot training. No wonder there's a whole bunch of helicopters flying over Dothan, Daleville, Enterprise, Alabama, because that's where they train people how to fly helicopters. Okay. The same thing, there was a whole bunch of intelligence collection aircraft over Sierra Vista, Arizona. So if you do the same thing, you do a search and you say, okay, I want to go to Google Maps and what's in Sierra Vista, Arizona. And let me see if I have that one still up. I think I closed it down because it was going to be too much. Go over Sierra Vista, Arizona, you find out that right outside of Sierra Vista, Arizona is Fort Huachuca. That's these guys right here. It's where I retired from. And that is where we train all of our airborne electronic warfare and signals intelligence collectors. So you would expect, if that's where you train them how to do it, that there would be a whole bunch of airplanes and helicopters flying out of Fort Huachuca because they train every single day. Hello, Chef Tech. Welcome. So, let me catch up here. Apparently, the Russians have the capability to spoof GPS signals. Really messes with commercial airliners, especially if their altimeters don't match. Well, altimeters is a different thing. It was, at least back when I was in. It may be different now, but that was a different system that was very easily, we call it ICD, imitative communications deception, where we're putting a false signal in for the purposes of confusing somebody. So ICD used to be very, very simple on altimeters. I don't know if that's linked to GPS now. I've been retired a couple of years, so I will take your word on that. Okay. Thank you for putting that up, Little Lone Prepper. That is a fantastic channel. Strongly recommend that you watch it. Okay. Take care, Michelle. Have a nice evening. Okay, so that's pretty much it as far as the military stuff. Don't want you to get overly concerned. Just do a little bit of research. You know, people are going to say all kinds of things. Only about 1% of the population has ever served on active duty. 3% know somebody who has served on active duty. And so I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of misinformation out there, and a lot of people kind of go spastic over stuff that really doesn't mean anything. And a little bit of research, you can clarify the situation, and it won't be quite as confusing as a lot of other people. Now, there's also that, you know, I don't know if you ever did it in school or anything like that, but we did a communications exercise when I was a corporate trainer, and we would pass a message, and we put people in a circle, and we start the message from person one and go around. And then when it came back to us, we finally gave what the final message was. And very seldom were they anywhere more than about 25% correct. That's the same thing with social media. Somebody interprets something, and we're going to get into that here in just a second. When they interpret it, they pass it out, and they may pass it out to two different people, okay? Those two people pass it out to two more people. Well, all of a sudden somebody says, well, where'd you get that information? Well, I got it from two sources. Well, remember, here's the one, passed it to these two. If you're getting it from these two sources or any two subsequent down from the ones who got it from that first source, then it is not self-validating. It's still a bunch of poo-poo. So it's not necessarily correct information. So what I want you to do is understand there are people out there that you can ask who are in the know pretty much, but may not be as well. Okay. I will tell you, I know MI. I know a little bit. I can stumble my way through the combat arms. I know a little bit about the Air Force, those that we worked with. I know a little bit about the Navy that we worked with. But to tell you that I know anything more than that, I would be fibbing to you. Nobody can know all of it. Okay. So now there's another one, and it's called the HF Global Communication System, HFGCS. And I already put that out. So what I want to do is I want to kind of clarify some stuff for you. So the first thing I want to clarify for you is today I heard, because I have software-defined radio on my computer, and I can listen to almost anything. Today, 25 times I heard 21, ya 22, priom. I heard 35 priom messages. Is that significant? Does it mean anything? Yesterday I heard 32. Today I heard 35. Does that mean that we're getting ready for an attack because there's more priom messages? Or does it mean that there's less? Or what does it mean? Okay. So we have this system in the U.S. military called the HF, High Frequency Global Communication System, GCS. In that, there are three different types of messages that can be passed, okay? One is called an emergency action message. Now, the emergency action message is a series of enciphered information that gets transmitted to our strategic forces that can change their strategic posture as far as nuclear defense, Minuteman missiles, bombers, ballistic submarine launched ballistic missiles. It can give them targeting information. It can give them all kinds of information. How and why and what, we don't know. It's all encrypted, okay? There's also what they call the FDM, Force Direction Message. And that just says, I need for you to move to this spot in order to resupply. I need for you to pick up this payload. I need for you to do this or that. It's basically administrative type stuff, okay? We really don't know the difference between the two when we, as untrained people, are listening. Oh, by the way, that 21, ya 22 priom, that's 21. This is 22, over. Priom is the Russian word for over. Just as in German, it's Kommen. In Hungarian, it's Adbjör. So, sometimes we think we put meaning to things that there is really, we don't know what the meaning is. So, but we think that we need to feel that we're telling something that's important. But I would say don't be concerned. Okay. Now, there is one channel that I listen to, and he will tell you that, oh my God, today we had 35 EAMs. So what I get in the habit of doing, remember I did this for a living, okay, is every time they transmit one, I hand copy the message, okay? So for example, here on the 7th of August at 20:30 Zulu, which is, I use the Zulu clock. So let me show you how I do that. So here I go to my phone, and so on my world clock, I have several things. I have Berlin, Tokyo, Austin, Jerusalem, Taiwan, and London. London is Zulu, Greenwich Mean Time. So right now it's 2:29 a.m. in London. It's 4:59 a.m. in Tehran, 4:29 a.m. in Jerusalem, and 10:29 a.m. in Tokyo, and 3:29 a.m. in Berlin. So, I can tell you what time it is around the world pretty much. So, but everybody in the communications intelligence genre uses Zulu time. Okay, so look at these messages. So I copy them, but Some of them get retransmitted several times. So this one here was transmitted at 16:18 and then again at 22:20. Okay. This one here was transmitted at 22:20, at 22:50, and at 23:15. And then finally, again, on the 9th at 12:15. Now, how can you tell that it's a retrans? What you do is you copy the actual message. Now, we believe that the very first group is indicative. Now, this is me as an analyst, okay? Because if I take a look at all of the messages that I have copied over the last week, I'm going to say all but 2 of them begin with a key group. They pass that key group, what we call a control group, okay? They pass that key group or control group like 3 or 4 times before they actually pass the message. Now, in every one of the cases except for 2 in the past week, they have started with the same thing, X-ray 2, okay? So the thought process is that X-ray 2 is probably the message indicator type, and then the next 4 characters, because they're passing 6-digit groups, probably give you the page, row, and column of the encipherment book that they're using to encode the rest of the message. Okay. Now, all code books are generated by NSA and sent out on a regular basis. They are only sent to like people who need the same communications information. So even in intelligence, I would never receive a copy of the code book for our nuclear warfare systems. Okay. So the only people that get those are the people who are supposed to know what they mean. Okay. Now, the other 2 that I saw that were not X-ray 2s were at 12:25 on the 8th, they called CQ49. Now, CQ is a standard radio transmission name, and it means calling all stations. Okay, so when he says CQ49, that's calling all stations on the 49 net. Okay, and then after that, he gave a 30-character message, but it started with BO. Okay, instead of the Z2. I'm sorry, X2. The other one was, oh, here it is. At 0030 on the 8th, we had a 30-character message that started with 5F. So we've got a BO, a 5F, and all the rest of them are X-ray 2s. So I'm going to say that I don't know which one's which. Nobody knows unless you're in the system. But we've got a whole bunch of one, some of the other. Now, the third thing that is done on the high-frequency command system is that they also ask for HFDF. So they've got all these airplanes, right? They've got all these submarines. And so all they have to do is they say, hey, we have a strange transmitter on this HF frequency. Can you all listen in and just give us a line of bearing towards it? And that way they can DF it. So the third thing that is done on that net is they do have the ability to do an HF direction finding net. So all of that can be, so we have 3 different functions. We have 3 different digraphs starting at the beginning of the preambles. And I would say, don't worry about it. Okay. We don't know what they mean, so we don't know whether we should be concerned or not. If you want to listen to them, that's great. Listen to them. But I would say, don't let the volume, don't let the lack of volume, don't let all that stuff get to you, because we really don't know what it means. Maintain just a straight logical sequence of it. Okay. Okay. So any questions about that? Let me see if I can catch up with you. I appreciate your humor, Jack. So good point, Theoxerus. Good point. Okay, now warning. This is where we're going to probably break some glass bubbles and some people's thought processes and everything else. Some of you may have seen me on another channel 2 or 3 nights ago. And the person said, the Bible says that Russia will attack Israel. Okay. And I said, no, it doesn't. That's just a fact. The Bible does not say that. Okay. So for those of you who don't know, I was born and raised Roman Catholic, married a Baptist, became a Baptist minister. We ended up getting divorced. One of the things you cannot do in the Baptist church is be a minister and be divorced at the same time. So I was basically kicked out of the church, went back to the Catholic Church, and I've been studying the Bible intently ever since. So I'm about ready to finish a master's in theology with biblical scripture as the concentration. So I have a plethora of things to share with you here. So some things I want to recommend to you. Hello, Holly. Welcome. This was when I was in seminary, the Layman's Parallel New Testament. One of the great things about this is it has 4 translations side by side. The wonder of Google, you can now do the same thing on Google. You can have 12 different translations side by side. So you can compare translations and you don't have to always be stuck with one. The Catholic Study Bible has passages in Hebrew and in Greek. Of course, my Greek Bible. I have my Navarre Bible, and this, believe it or not, is only the first 5 books of the Bible because it's got it in Greek. It's got the translations. It's got meanings. It's got historical data and everything else that are provided with it. My 2 primary Bibles. What did I do with them? I don't know what I do with my primary. Oh, there it is, underneath my other notes. When I was a minister, a Baptist minister, this was my number 1 Bible. It's called the Thompson Chain Reference. It is probably one of the best study Bibles out there, although it's King James. But it gives you topics, charts, maps. It's just great. I checked before I came online. I paid $75 for it in 1971. Which was a lot. That was a whole month's pay as a private first class. Now it's down to $40, but it's just one of the best study Bibles there are, giving you a whole bunch of information. My number 1 Bible I use now, and you can probably tell by all the tabs, okay, is I use the Catholic Men's Bible. And so I want to talk about something. The comment was, yeah, it is. Very much. So, and I'm very happy where I am back at. Very, very happy where I am now. We've been, and Helen and I have been married 42 years. She's Methodist. And her family always, I've been asked to do a funeral and a couple other things because they view me as being more knowledgeable of theology than most of the ministers that they're affiliated with. So as a matter of fact, I just recently did my sister-in-law's funeral. And so one of the fundamentalist Baptists said that it was the best funeral he had ever attended. It was the most biblical he'd ever attended. And so I was very, very happy that he said that. But anyhow, back to where we are. The statement, God wrote the Bible, and the Bible, especially in Ezekiel 37 and 38, says that Russia will attack Israel. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to find a concordance. And I had one here. I just had it here. Oh, there it is. Keep covering things up. So this is a concordance, okay? What it is it's a very thick book. You can also do the same thing online. But you look for specific words. So the words we're going to look for here, and I know a lot of people say Gog and Magog. What they don't do is they don't read the entire script, which is Gog is the prince of Magog, okay? So one's a person, the other's a place. So here, it gives you a listing of all the biblical scripture that the words Gog appear in, okay? So you can do the same thing online. Just go to concordance and put in Gog or Magog or whatever. And we're going to do that right now because the statement was that the Bible says Russia, okay? So we're going to go to an online concordance. And ta-da! Now we're going to put in the word Russia. So if the Bible says Russia is going to attack Israel, then Russia is in the Bible, right? So we're going to look for it. And it says, uh-oh, looks like we couldn't find anything that matched your search. Okay, so we stopped sharing that. I just want to show you the word Russia does not appear anywhere in the Bible. Now he says, but here's the thing. The word Rosh does. And so Rosh is interpreted as Russia. I said, okay, I can kind of accept that, but not really, because Rosh is, number one, a Hebrew letter, and number two, it also means chief or main. So if we take a look at Ezekiel 37, I want to use this Bible. Do I have it marked? No, that's Matthew that I have marked in that Bible. I have it in this one. Yeah, I have it in this one. So I'm going to read Ezekiel 37 and 38. And it says, the word of the Lord came to the Son of Man. And that's an interesting one, the Son of Man. Man in Hebrew is Adam. Well, actually it's DM, because in ancient Hebrew they didn't have vowels. All they had were the consonants. So both man, mankind, human being, and Adam, the first person, are the same word. So it says, the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, turn your face against Gog of the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech. Now, I want to show you another thing here. This is a problem with translations, okay? So we're going to share screen. And I think this is it. Yeah, that's the one I want to share. Okay, you'll see this on every train, every airplane, every bus in Germany. So let's translate this. Aus means out. And as a matter of fact, Hill Summit Homestead, he used to have, Jack, he used to have, his old YouTube name was Auslander. Okay, and aus means out. Gang is a way, so out way or exit. Okay, so if we translate the entire word from German, we get one meaning. If we translate only part of the word and leave the other part for us, okay, to understand in English, then it becomes very confusing and it can actually cause you your life. So Notausgang in German means emergency exit. In English, it means not an exit. So you're going to look for an emergency exit, not this exit, right? So when we translate, we need to translate everything and not leave something untranslated, or it can cause problems. And that's the problem here. In most Bibles, it's going to say chief prince. Now, the word for chief or head or main is Rosh. So, for example, the first day of the year, the main day of the year, the principal day of the year, the chief day of the year is Rosh Hashanah, right? So Rosh is a word that means chief or main. In most Bibles, it's translated as chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Now, most of the area that was around at that time, if you follow a map, they probably go up as far as the Caspian Sea, but not north of the Caspian Sea. Not very much even into the Black Sea. So one of the things I think we need to do is we need to take a look at context. So this is a fantastic biblical timeline. And we find that what happened is, remember that Israel was divided in half after Solomon. His two sons split it up into Israel in the north, 9 tribes, and Judea or Judah in the south, 2 tribes. Okay. Then you had the tribe of Levi, which was the priestly tribe that was in both, primarily in Jerusalem, but both. Okay. So we had 5 different invasions of that area. Okay. The first one was the Assyrians. Now the Assyrians only conquered Israel, the top part. Okay. Judea, the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi were left in the bottom part, and then became Judah. So when the Assyrians took the northern part, they took all the inhabitants away. That's why they're called now the Lost Tribes. And they supplanted those with their own people. So if you read the New Testament, you hear the story of the Samaritans. those are the people who were put in by the Assyrians to occupy that space after they got rid of all of Israel that was occupying that space up there. Now, the next one that came in was Babylon. Babylon conquered both upper and, oh gosh, I forgot to tell you. Babylon conquered both Israel and Judea, okay? As a matter of fact, and I did the math, so let me see here. Today is the 2615th anniversary of the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem by the Babylonians, okay? So actually it was yesterday, because in Israel they use a sundown to sundown for their days. But we are at biblical times as far as the destruction of the temple by the Babylonians. Now it was the same day of the year, but 70 AD, when the Romans destroyed the second temple in Jerusalem. So today's kind of one of those prophetic days as far as the destruction of the temple. But what we have to understand is it was during that second occupation, the Babylonians, they came in and took the remaining Jews out of, and the term Jew comes from Judea, okay, the Judeans. And so they took them in three different migrations. They pulled them out of Judea. And Daniel and Ezekiel were in that second group that were brought out. And so Ezekiel died before the Persians came in. So we believe that the vast majority of what Ezekiel wrote about was in reference to the Persians, King Cyrus, coming in and kicking out the Babylonians. Now, Daniel still lived into King Cyrus and into the Persian occupation. So, but there were enough prophecies given that were towards King Cyrus that he allowed all of the Jews who were left alive in Babylon to return back to Israel and Judea. Okay, so they kind of migrated back to their homeland and back to Jerusalem. Now, funny thing, just for a tinge of what's going on here. So Cyrus was, he died, he was replaced by his son Xerxes. And what is Xerxes famous for? The Battle of Thermopylae, which is the brave 300 Spartans, right? So that this is all right there at that exact same time that Cyrus has come down, beat the Babylonians, freed the Israelis. They are going back to Israel. So all this prophecy that is being done by Ezekiel is more than likely referring to Persia coming down from the north to take over Babylon and free the people. And he talks about, now the second place that we have Gog and Magog is in Revelation. Probably not the same event, okay? And the reason is because in Ezekiel, you find that they say that it takes 7 months to bury the dead after the battle, okay? Then it also takes 7 months of searching for additional wounded who ran away and and died. So they need to get those buried and cremated and everything else to purify the land. And so the whole period after the Gog-Magog War in Ezekiel lasts for 14 months afterwards. So now let's compare that to Revelation. So in Revelation chapter 20, verses 7 through, we'll just see where we go. When the 1,000 years are completed, so this is after the 1,000-year tribulation, Satan will be released from the prison. He will go out to deceive the nations of the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog together, to gather them for battle. Their number is like the sand of the sea. They invaded the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the holy ones in the beloved city, but fire came down from heaven and consumed them all. The devil who had led them astray was thrown into the pool of fire and sulfur where the beast and the false prophet are. There they will be tormented day and night forever and ever from his presence, and there was no place for them. I saw the dead, the great and the lowly, standing before the throne, and scrolls were opened. Then another scroll was opened, the book of life. The dead were judged according to their deeds by what was written in the scrolls. I think that's enough because you get the word, you get the idea here. In the first battle that's described by Ezekiel, in Ezekiel 37:38, It takes 14 months worth of sanctification after the battle. However, in Revelation, immediately after the battle is when we have the opening of the scrolls, the book of life and everything else. So there is no sanctification after the battle because that's when the second judgment happens. Okay. So it's difficult to say that the first Gog-Magog war and the second Gog-Magog war are the same thing. Okay. And the other one is, in the first one, Ezekiel talks about several city-states, Tubal, Put, Cush, Meshech, Gog, Prince of Magog. Whereas in the second one, he said that they come from all four corners of the earth and number as the sands of the desert. So, I'm sorry, was it sands? No, sands of the sea. Probably meaning the beach. But anyhow, so that means everybody's going to be against Israel in the second one. So we're probably looking at the second one when it happens. But remember, it has to happen after the 1,000-year tribulation. That's what it says in the first verse. Okay, so to say that Russia is going to attack Israel, yeah, they are, along with the rest of the entire world, okay? Because in Revelation it says all four corners of the earth will attack Israel, okay? But Ezekiel 37:38 does not say Russia, okay? And so all I want to do is I want to encourage you, when you say something, say it accurately, okay? Now, I would have no problems at all if they say there are scholars who interpret certain things in Ezekiel 37 and 38 as saying Russia may be a contender, okay? If it's an interpretation, personal interpretation, I can accept that. But when you say the Bible says, and the Bible doesn't say, that's an interpretation of yours, that's where we get into a little bit of heresy, blasphemy, okay? Because we can't attribute something to the Bible that it doesn't really say. We have to say that this is an interpretation, okay? Okay, let me get up here and catch up with the chat. So all I want you to realize is, yes, we are in biblical times. Is it the end of the world? Probably not, okay? There are a lot of things that have to happen. I want to do one more real quick one before we bring this to a close. Exactly, Jack. You are spot on, brother. So there's a difference between saying it says and we interpret as, or it has been substituted as. There are a couple in there that they're very specific. It says Put, but Put we believe to be Phut, which was west of Egypt. Egypt, it says by name. Persia, it says by name. Now, modern day Persia is Iran. So we can say, we interpret Persia to be Iran, modern day Iran. So there are things we can interpret. I know what it was. The Tubal and Meshech are probably as far north as Armenia, by the Caspian Sea, east of the Black Sea. But we really didn't get that much further north than Turkey. So to say, and the other thing is, we say that because we say Rush, that's going to be that's indicative that it's going to be Russia. But I would also encourage you, study the languages, okay? So I want to do something here real quick. I don't know if I'll get in trouble for this or not, but we'll try it. See if you can hear it. This is Google Translate, okay? So what I did was I put in, I would like to know what the Hebrew word for Russia is. And if you use Google Translate, you can also have this button down here. It tells you what it sounds like. So let's see if you can hear it. Let me know. I know why I did that wrong. I need to go here to do that. Okay, see if we can hear this.
Russia. Russia. Russia.
So the Hebrew word for Russia is Russia. So it's not Rush, it's Russia. Okay, the same thing as the Russian word for Russia is Россия. The German word for Russia is Russland. So Rush doesn't make any sense to translate as being Russia because, number one, it's not the Hebrew word for Russia, and even most of we are probably the only language that pronounces Russia as Russia. Okay, all the rest of them do it correctly as an S sound. So sometimes I have to paraphrase. So, but that's kind of where we are. One last one I want to caution you on is in Matthew 24, I believe. Let me see if I can get it here. I got so many tabs and things marked in my Bible that I get lost. Matthew 24. And this is kind of another one of my small pet peeves. People will often say wars and rumors of wars, and that's an indication of the end times. And they never quote the entire passage. I think it's important you understand the entire passage, because then you won't be as afraid as you are just listening to the people who say wars and rumors of wars. So the first question I have is that the Gospel of Matthew was probably written somewhere around 80 AD. So he says wars and rumors of wars. Tell me 1 year since 80 AD until 2024 that there have not been wars and rumors of wars on the earth. Okay. So if you just use that logic, right in of itself, it says there's got to be something more to this than just that wars and rumors of wars. So the beginning of calamities, chapter 24, I'm going to start with verse 6b. You will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for these things must happen, and it will not yet be the end. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes from place to place. All these are the beginning of the pains. Then they will hand you over to persecution, and they will kill you. You will be hated by all nations because of my name, and then many will be led into sin. They will betray and hate one another. I think that's happening right now. Social media has got us to where we no longer love each other, and we are no longer kind, respectful, and polite to each other. And then many will be led into sin and will betray and hate one another. Many false prophets will arise and deceive many. And because of the increase of evil doing, the love of many will grow cold. But the one who perseveres to the end will be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom will be preached throughout the world as a witness to all nations. Then the end will come. So there's a couple of things that have to happen there before the end will come. So when people start talking about wars and rumors of wars, don't worry. It's the beginning. It's not the end. It's not the parousia, which is a Greek word meaning the coming or the arrival. We quite often interpret that as the second coming because, of course, we know that he came the first time at the beginning of the millennia, the first millennia. And so we kind of vernacularly call it the second coming, but that second coming never really appears in the Bible. The word that appears 21 times in Greek is parousia, and it means arrival or coming. Okay. Now, we can get into another discourse. There are a group of people who, since 1800, have translated that along with another word, because in 1 Thessalonians, it says that the people will be snatched up from the earth. And so they've taken a different interpretation of that than has been standard for the church for the last, 1900 years, and have attributed a new meaning to that. And so we could talk about that at quite length too, but I think that would offend some people because they're pretty caught up in what's called premillennial dispensationalism or the rapture theory. But we can have a discussion on that if you want to. I can give you the biblical source for why that probably is not correct. Okay, so let's see, catch up on stuff here, and then we can let people go. 1 hour, almost on the night. Wow. Let me see where we are. Whatever happened with the red heifer that Texas sent them? That is, I don't know. I really don't know. I know that they need that in order to do the consecration of the third temple grounds. But what has happened to it, I don't know. Jack. Thank you. I should have had you just come on and help me with this. You're absolutely correct. Yeah, Spanish is trucia. Yeah. I went to a Bible study with a woman versed in ancient languages. Did you know that Christmas saying peace on earth, goodwill towards men should be interpreted as peace on earth to men of goodwill? No, I did not know that, but thank you for sharing that. There's a lot of things that are vernacularly changed. And things take different meanings. One of my favorite things when I talk about interpreting is there was a Star Trek episode where they were fighting these silicone creatures underneath the earth, and they were making tunnels and everything else. And the miners were disturbing their eggs and killing their children. And they got into a war. At the very end, this one silicone mother sat on a rock, and then it stood up and walked away, or globbed away, and it said, "No kill I." And so when you don't have grammar and you don't have declension or conjugation or anything else, what does no kill I mean? Does that mean I won't kill you, or does that mean don't kill me? And so, you have this confusion with translations of things. And so that becomes very difficult. And then we also have, pronunciation problems. For example, one of my favorites is Nikita, the premier of the Sovietsky Soyuz, the Soviet Union. His name is Khrushchev. So there is a Russian letter Ch, which is their phonetic alphabet is Khariton, but that's his first name. Ch. It looks like an X to us, but it's transliterated as KH. Quite often, Americans will look at that KH and pronounce the K and not the H, where it should be the other way around. It should be you pronounce the H and not the K. But we do that. So there's, listen to a bunch of people talking about the war currently going on in Europe, and they'll say Kharkov. They'll say Kharkov instead of Kharkov. Or they'll say, another one is there's another guy who, there's only 10 vowels in Russian. And so you either have, and they're always pronounced the same way, A, Ya, I, O, Yo, U, U, and let me see, what did I forget? Yeah. So I is always pronounced E. So the missile is Iskander, not Iskander. But, that's, if you don't research, you don't know. Let me see. Oh yeah, I think that we did a 60-year negative transition as far as race relations under the Obama series. Holly, yes, I strongly encourage it. I try to spend at least an hour a day in the Bible. That's one of my priorities in the morning. And then we also, right now, we are doing the book of John in our church. So every Thursday morning, we spend 2 hours on the book of John. Okay. I hope you all got something out of here. I hope I didn't offend anybody. I'm just trying to show you what it says, where it says it, and things like that. So if you hear somebody say that the Bible says that Russia is going to invade Israel, that's not what the Bible says. It can be interpreted that way because remember, in Revelation 2012, is it 2012? Revelation, yeah, oh, thank God. Revelation 2012, it says that the four corners of the earth, so all the countries are going to invade Israel. So yes, technically, Russia will invade Israel. However, the proper way to say that is not the Bible says, it's interpretation is that Russia will invade Israel. Okay, so with that, y'all, I strongly recommend you watch, if you're interested in EAMs, I strongly recommend NEET, N-E-E-T, Intel, I-N-T-E-L. He does a fantastic job. He copies the messages. He keeps a spreadsheet so he can tell you basically who, to whom, from whom, when, if there's ever been a repeated preamble. I mean, this guy, he makes me proud that he's such a good commenter, communications intelligence guy. So he does a very good job of that. And I strongly recommend that you watch him. So with that, thank you all for being here this evening. Don't forget tomorrow night, we're going to be talking about Barter, home-based businesses and things like that on, I think it's chapter 13 of James Wesley Rawles' book, How to Survive the End of the World as We Know It, or How to Survive Teotwalki. Our end of month book is a fantastic book by John Grammer, and that'll be the last Thursday of this month. That's United. So that's book 2 in his series. We're just getting a lot of good stuff going on. I strongly recommend, it's called Ascension Press. It's a Catholic publication, but it's very valid. I would recommend it to anybody. They have this professor put together what's called the, let me get rid of this. Put together this timeline. So it's a very detailed timeline. So you can see when the prophets and all the different things happened, what was going on in the world, who the kings were, who the leaders were, when the nations divided. It's a fantastic thing. So like this evening, it was very easy for me to go up here and say, okay, we're in this period right here. So the exile and return. So this is when Daniel and Ezekiel are. Daniel goes on over, they're in the exile, and then Daniel moves on over into the return to England, to Israel. You've also got, it gets into the Maccabean revolt. Now, you don't, in Protestant Bibles, you don't see there's 200 years of biblical writings that are missing during the Maccabean period. 6 books, the Deuterocanonical books of that 200-year period. And the reason is who came after Persia, right? A big purple grape, right? So Greece. So Greece then conquered Persia and took over Israel. Well, one of the things that the Greeks did that none of the other conquerors did was they said, everything you do has to be in our language. So they forced the Jews to write everything and speak in Greek, which is why the New Testament is primarily in Greek, is because that became the language of the Mediterranean, thanks to the Greeks. Even the Romans used Greek coin as their language for commerce, trade, and everything else. They only used Latin basically for judicial stuff and military stuff with Rome. So, just very interesting. Go to Ascension Press, order the Great Adventure Bible Timeline. I think you'll get a kick out of it. One of the things that I had to look up that I got a kick out of was the fact that Daniel and Ezekiel are the same time as the brave 300 Spartans at the Battle of Thermopylae. So thanks everybody for being here. Thank you, Jack, for your wonderful support. Thank you all. I love you. I appreciate the fact that I didn't see anybody being nasty to anybody, that you are all kind, polite, and respectful with each other. Thank you for making this a family that I am extremely proud of. I am so happy that you come here to listen to me pontificate. But you know what? You're just such wonderful people. Thank you so, so much for being here. So with that, remember that we're in this together. And we're going to come out of this together because we are a family and we take care of each other. We're kind, polite, and respectful to each other. So we will get through this together. Take care, everybody. See you tomorrow night. Bye-bye.